When Cole Palmer signed from Manchester City last season, nobody at Chelsea expected him to become the heartbeat of the team so quickly. He was seen as a promising addition, a young winger with technical quality, someone who could add depth and creativity, but a leader, the face of Stamford Bridge's new era. That wasn't in the script. Yet at Cobham, Chelsea's training ground, something happened that forced everyone, from the board to the coaching staff to his own teammates, to rethink Palmer's role. It wasn't in front of the cameras. It wasn't during a Premier League night under the Stamford Bridge lights. It was behind closed doors in a high-intensity training session that changed perceptions overnight. The context everyone forgot when Palmer left Manchester City. Even Pep Guardiola admitted he was a player with enormous potential, but there was a reason City let him go. He wasn't ready to be the main man. At Chelsea, he was meant to develop quietly, gain experience, and add moments of magic without carrying the full weight of the team. But last season told a different story. Palmer ended as Chelsea's top scorer, their penalty taker, their clutch performer. The fans embraced him, the media praised him, and in the dressing room, players started noticing something different about the 22-year-old. He didn't play like a youngster, finding his feet. He played like a man demanding responsibility. Still, leadership is different. Scoring goals makes you a hero, but leading a team makes you a captain. And Chelsea already had senior names: Reece James, Thiago Silva, Raheem Sterling. Palmer wasn't expected to stand in that circle until Cobham, the session that changed everything. It was meant to be a routine training match, minus 11 versus 11. High tempo, with Enzo Maresca observing closely. But this wasn't just fitness work. Maresca was testing tactical shapes, demanding sharp pressing, and pushing players to operate under pressure. And in that session, Palmer stole the show. Not just with goals, though he scored during quick succession. Not just with skill, though one nutmeg reportedly had teammates laughing in disbelief. What shocked everyone was his attitude. Palmer wasn't just executing instructions. He was giving them. At one point, when a senior teammate misplaced a pass, Palmer clapped his hands and barked, "Again, faster. We move quicker." The silence that followed was telling. This wasn't a rookie speaking out of turn. This was a player stepping into a role few expected him to own. The reactions inside Cobham, witnesses said the tempo of the session shifted immediately. Teammates started responding to Palmer's energy. He demanded the ball, orchestrated movements, and drove the intensity higher than before. Even Maresca, usually composed on the sidelines, was seen nodding, quietly impressed. For a manager who values tactical discipline and leadership from the pitch, this was the moment he realized Palmer could be more than just a weapon. He could be a pillar. After the session, staff members exchanged whispers. Palmer doesn't look like a kid anymore. He looks like a leader. Some senior players reportedly felt a jolt. The hierarchy inside Chelsea was being tested. If Palmer was ready to step up, it meant others would have to step aside. The beginning of a shift. That single training session planted a seed inside Chelsea. Leadership doesn't always arrive through experience or age. Sometimes it reveals itself in moments of courage, when a player dares to take control in a room full of stars. For Chelsea, Palmer's dominance that day wasn't just about performance. It was about presence. The way he lifted his teammates, the way he demanded higher standards, the way he carried himself like someone who knew this was his team. And so, what was meant to be an ordinary day at Cobham ended as a turning point. By the time players walked off the pitch, one question lingered over Stamford Bridge: is Cole Palmer just Chelsea's star forward? Or is he already becoming their new leader? The answer would not just define his career, it could define the future of Enzo Maresca's Chelsea project. London hadn't even finished reacting to Chelsea's summer signings when the news cycle suddenly shifted its focus. It wasn't a new player grabbing the spotlight this time. It was one they already had. Cole Palmer, the youngster who arrived quietly from Manchester City, was no longer being talked about as just Chelsea's bright talent. He was being discussed as the man already stepping into a role far bigger than anyone anticipated. Inside Stamford Bridge, whispers turned into debates. Staff members who had witnessed his training session admitted privately that they had not seen a young player command authority like that since the early days of Frank Lampard. This wasn't about fancy stepovers or scoring goals in highlight reels. It was about something far more powerful: presence. Palmer had walked into that session as one of many, but he walked out as someone teammates looked at differently. The players knew it. The coaching staff knew it. Even the board knew it. The headlines that followed captured the mood perfectly. Journalists wrote that Chelsea might have stumbled upon their new leader by accident. Fans on social media argued over it. Some insisted it was too soon, pointing to his age, reminding everyone of Chelsea's history of senior captains and decorated leaders. Others fired back. Leadership doesn't always wear experience. Sometimes it wears courage. And in that training ground moment, Palmer had shown courage in abundance. For Enzo Maresca, the situation presented both opportunity and risk. He had joined Chelsea with a blueprint, a strict tactical identity, and a vision for control to build. That vision, he needed players who could translate his ideas on the pitch without hesitation. What he saw in Palmer wasn't just skill, it was initiative. Palmer wasn't waiting for instructions. He was setting the tempo himself. That is rare. In football, rare still in someone so young. Yet Maresca knew that placing too much on Palmer too soon could backfire. The balance between nurturing and demanding would define how far Palmer could go. Meanwhile, inside the dressing room, dynamics began to shift. Senior players couldn't ignore what they had seen. Some welcomed it, admiring his hunger. Others felt challenged, uncomfortable at the idea of a 22-year-old stepping into a space they believed belonged to them. Quiet tension brewed, not open conflict, but the subtle kind that lingers in glances and unspoken words. When a player starts taking responsibility others aren't willing to take, the hierarchy changes, and that is exactly what was happening at Chelsea. But the human side of the story is what made it resonate most. Palmer himself didn't walk around Cobham bragging. He didn't demand to be seen as a leader. Off the pitch, he remained the same, calm, composed, almost shy in front of cameras. Yet those who trained with him daily saw the difference. The switch in his demeanor on the pitch was undeniable. It wasn't arrogance. It was ambition, a belief that he could be more than just another attacker in blue. He wanted to be the one teammates turned to when the pressure rose. Maresca, in his private analysis sessions, started sketching tactical variations with Palmer at the center of them, not always as the goal scorer, but as the decision maker, the one who dictates tempo, who shifts pressing triggers, who controls transitions. The same Palmer, who many thought would need years to mature, was suddenly being treated like the conductor of Chelsea's orchestra. It was no longer about where do we fit Palmer, but rather how do we build around him. As the media picked up on this shift, the outside noise grew louder. Pundits questioned whether Chelsea were putting too much pressure on him. Fans debated if he was ready to wear the armband one day. Rival supporters mocked the idea of Chelsea finding their leader in a player. City were willing to let go. But beneath all the noise, one fact remained. Inside Chelsea, respect for Palmer was rising. Respect that cannot be manufactured. Respect that is only earned on the pitch. In the moments where a player proves he is willing to carry others. And so, what began as one fiery training session transformed into something far bigger. Cole Palmer was no longer just Chelsea's most exciting young talent. He had become the symbol of a new era, the unexpected voice in a room full of stars, the quiet leader whose influence was now impossible to ignore. Whether Chelsea were ready to accept it or not, their future was staring them in the face. Wearing number 20 and demanding the ball, because sometimes in football, leaders aren't chosen by managers or appointed by captains' meetings. Sometimes, leadership is revealed in a single moment, and Cole Palmer's moment had arrived far sooner than anyone imagined, leaving Chelsea with one undeniable reality: the player they signed for goals might just be the leader who defines their next generation.